Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Court Reporters Board. I have a few housekeeping matters to share before I call the meeting to order, beginning with a reminder to everyone that this meeting is being recorded and webcast. Today's meeting will be run in accordance with the Open Meeting Act as required by law. I would ask all of us to please turn our cell phones to silent. You may notice board members accessing their laptops, phones, or other devices during the meeting. They are using the devices solely to access the board meeting materials that are in electronic format. The board welcomes public comment on any item on the agenda, and it is the board's intent to ask for public comment prior to the board taking any action on any agenda item. If for some reason I forget to ask for public comment on an agenda item and you wish to speak on that item, please raise your hand and you will be recognized. To better assist the board in accurately transcribing the minutes of the meeting, members of the public who make a comment may be asked to disclose their name and association. However, disclosure of that information is not required by law and is purely voluntary. I want to remind all speakers to please stay on topic and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. If you agree with the prior speaker, please do not repeat the comments, but rather state that you agree with comments already made. I would like to call the meeting to order and ask that Ms. Bruning please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. O'Neill?
Here.
Ms. O'Neill?
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Hurt?
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Chugade?
Present.
Thank you. And Ms. Sunkis?
Present.
Thank you. Quorum reached.
Thank you, Ms. Bruning. And I want to give a special welcome to our newest board member, Ms. Denise Tagati. Thank you. Yay, we're glad to have you. Before we begin, I would like to remind the board members that we will be taking a roll call vote on all action items. Our first agenda item is number 1, public comment for items not on the agenda. Before we invite speakers to begin, I would ask individuals making comments to not discuss pending complaints, pending applications, or pending disciplinary actions that may come before the board for a decision. Such discussions are considered ex parte communications as they could provide to the board members information that is outside of the record, which is in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. Therefore, such discussions could create a conflict and lead to a board decision being challenged in Superior Court. The board can receive comments regarding the board's processes in general, but it cannot receive comments on specific case circumstances where the decision is still pending. Board staff is available to speak with you about any pending matter. In addition, the board would ask that the public address the board as a whole and not individual board members. Please be aware that public comment during this agenda item should provide information to the board members and is not a discussion between the board members and the public. The only action board members can take is to listen to comments and decide whether they want a future agenda item on the topic. No other action can be taken on the item at this meeting. Though this may seem at times like the board members are not being responsive, following these guidelines is critical to ensure the rules of the Open Meeting Act are followed to avoid compromising the speaker's goals or the board's mission. With that, is there anyone wishing to offer public comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the moderator, and I've opened up the question and answer panel, also referred to as a Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, they may type, "I would like to make a comment," or simply comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and submit it to all panelists. They also have the option to raise their hand or type their comment. And I see that we do have a member of the public that would like to make a comment. Carolyn Dasher, I will let you know when you can unmute yourself. Please remember you'll have a 3-minute time limit, and I will give you a 30-second warning. And just a moment, and I will find you in my attendee list. All right, Carolyn Dasher, you should be able to unmute yourself now. And this is moderator Carolyn. I can't unmute you. You have to do that yourself, but I've given you permission to unmute yourself. Carolyn, it looks like you're unmuted.
Okay, there we are. Thank you. Hi, my name is Carolyn Dasher, and I've been a licensed CSR since 1987. I'm just calling on behalf of myself, I guess. Thank you to all the board members and welcome to our new board member. I just wanted to put forth an idea for a future agenda, and that would be to allow the online schools to qualify test takers for the court reporters test. I know in the past, CCRA had offered an in-person qualifier test, and they have the capacity now or capability to now offer that online. And I think that's another option that the board could consider, so that we can qualify the students that are taking online schools, because I know more students are doing that. And that's all I have to say that's not on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. All right, so I'm looking through our members of the public to see if we have any raised hands. I'm not seeing any. And we have Alyssa Oliveira that would like to make a comment. So Alyssa, I'll let you know when you can unmute yourself. So Alyssa, you should be able to unmute yourself. There we go. Alyssa, you're unmuted.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So I actually sat in on the last board meeting for the reciprocity, and I realized that this would be more of the proper place to address some concerns. And I'm sorry, my connection was a little delayed, so I didn't necessarily hear all of the I caught the tail end of what I am able to speak. I apologize if the way I'm phrasing it or what I am or not allowed to speak on is allowed right now. But I am a current CSR examination. I'm taking the test, and I've run into quite a few issues, and I would like to propose that we take a look again at if we're able to do in person, and if not, review some of the test taking strategies, such as not allowing us to have two examinations, two tests, and choose from the one of two the way we did in the spring of 2020. I was luckily able to take the spring of 2020 test, in which we had the two different examinations in which we were able to choose which one we wanted to type up. So I would like to propose that we reevaluate if we can do that if we are going to remain online, and also to evaluate if we are going to be able to take in-person tests again in this upcoming year. I know that it is a person-by-person choice for the public, but the online examination has presented quite a few issues. I was not actually able to complete my online examination due to I had a technical issue with ProctorU in real time coach, and I was able to retest.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Alyssa. Part of the instructions I think that you did not hear from the chair, we can't talk about specific cases.
I see.
So
okay.
Your particular case, and actually this is going to be addressed later on one of our agenda items.
Okay, wonderful. Then I will just move on past one. I apologize. I probably did not catch that part then. So yes, just reevaluating circumstances, and mostly I would love to have reconsidered the two tests and then choosing which one if possible.
Thank you for your comments.
All right, this is a moderator, and we have a Deborah Alvino, who just wanted to say that she agreed with Carolyn Dasher's comment. And then we have Anna Fatima asking about the hand raise features. So you should, if you mouse next to the right of your name, see a hand appear and you click on that to raise your hand. So I'm looking to see if we have any raised hands. Also, if you still don't see that raised hand, you can use the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and just type comment or I'd like to make a comment, and we can know to unmute you that way. And Madam Chair, at this time, I am not seeing any further raised hands or requests for public comment. Would you like me to go ahead and close the question and answer panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's closed.
Okay. And I want to thank each of the people who offered. Thank you for your comments and the information that you shared with us. So moving on to agenda item number 2, which is approval of meeting minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. So let's start with item 2.1, approval of the minutes of our meeting on November 20, 2020. These minutes have been amended as requested at the last meeting. Are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes from the board members?
I'd like to move approval of 2.1.
I will second.
Okay. We have Ms. Hurt has moved and it's been seconded that by Ms. O'Neill. Is there anyone from the public who wishes, I'm sorry, to finish that sentence? The motion is to approve the minutes from the November 20, 2020 meeting. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on the minutes?
This is the moderator, and I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, they may type comment or I'd like to make a comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. And you can also raise your hand. I see that Angela Oliveira would like to make a comment. So Angela, I'll let you know when you can unmute yourself. And Angela, you are unmuted.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I just had, regarding a comment this morning. My daughter is
I'm sorry. Are you making a comment in regard to the meeting minutes, approving the minutes from the November 2020 meeting?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. It was regarding a proposal this morning.
Okay, we had moved on from the public comment.
Right. And I had tried to make a comment, but I think it got overlooked or you guys didn't see it, but that's okay if it's too late.
No, that's fine.
We will be, I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair, but we will be talking about the exam during my report. So it will come back up again and it will be timely if she wants to wait and address us then.
That's perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So does any member of the public have a comment in regard to the approval of the meeting minutes from the November 20, 2020, lots of 20s in there, meeting?
This is the moderator, Madam Chair, and I am not seeing any requests for public comment at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
Thank you. Ms. Bruning, would you please call the roll to vote on this item?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Hurt,
Aye.
Ms. O'Neill,
Aye.
Ms. Tugare,
Abstaining.
thank you. Ms. Sunkis,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Bruning. And moving on to item number 2.2, we have the approval of the minutes of our last meeting on April 16th, 2021. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes from the board members? I am not seeing any hands.
I'll move approval of April 16th, 2021 minutes.
Ms. Hurd has, sorry. Ms. Hurd has moved to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Ms. O'Neill, thank you. So there's been approval, motion to approve the minutes from the August 16, 2021. The motion has been seconded. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? I'm sorry, is there any member of the public that that has any comment on the meeting minutes?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on this agenda item, please type. I would like to make a comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and submit it to all panelists. You may also raise your hand. Madam Chair, this is a moderator. I see no request for public comment at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
Ms. Bruning, would you please call a call for the vote on the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. May I clarify that this is for the April 16th, 2021 meeting? I
Correct.
think August was mentioned. I just wanted to make sure that was clear on the record.
Correct. April 16th, 2021.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Hurt.
Aye.
Ms. O'Neill.
Aye.
Ms. Tugade.
Abstaining.
Thank you, Ms. Sankis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Bruning. And by the way, I want to thank, it always amazes me how great our meeting minutes are. And as a reminder to anyone who doesn't know, obviously these are not verbatim minutes. I mean, they're not verbatim notes like a court proceeding. But darn it, they're as close as I think they could possibly be. Ms. Bruning, thank you so much for your thoroughness. So we're going to turn to the next agenda item, number 3, which is an update from the Department of Consumer Affairs. Unfortunately, no one was able to present the report in person, but a written update is contained in the board meeting materials beginning at page 37. Do we have any member of the public? Do we have any public comment on the update from Department of Consumer Affairs?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will go ahead and open up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type comment, or I'd like to make a comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists. You may also raise your hand, and we will give you a moment. All right, Madam Chair, I see no request for comment at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
So we will move on to agenda item number 4, which is the report from our executive officer. Ms. Fenner, what do you have for us?
Good morning. Thank you all very much, Chair Sunkeys. I'm going to start off my budget as I always do with a review of the budget. So if you want to follow along with me on page 40 of the meeting material, you'll see the projections as of fiscal month 11. So it's almost at the end of last year's. I would point out that we are projected to revert 15.5% of our budget, which some of the longer serving members will know this is a significantly higher amount than we typically revert. Most years we are running very close to a break-even point. So this was good news for us. And I'm happy to answer any questions on the projections.
I thought I saw a hand. I do. Ms. Hurd, did you have a comment?
Actually do have a comment and a question. This board, speaking about longtime serving members, we've been very disciplined in our expenses and limited meetings, especially after those budgeting miscalculations outside the board's control some years ago. Well, we won't go there, but where I would like to go is a focus or if you could, Ms. Finner, speak to the effect of having remote meetings and also the effect of savings with remote testing, which we planned for, but remote meetings, obviously we didn't because of COVID, and how that's just impacted our budget.
Thank you for the question, Ms. Hurt. It has been a significant savings to us. So the savings that we realized from moving the skills testing to an online platform, the biggest savings would be the rental of the hotel spaces. Additionally, there's a significant amount of travel involved for readers, for staff, on our end, but also for the candidates. A lot of times the candidates are having to do the travel and the hotel costs as well. So, but particular to our budget, we have definitely realized savings from that aspect. From moving the board meetings online, obviously we're not a very big board, but there's still a significant amount of travel and hotel expenses that are involved with staff and or board members, because since we're spread out across the state, half of us are having to travel at one point or another. So it's just a fact of life that there's costs involved with that. I know this isn't directly related to the budget, but I would point out that I believe we're able to get more public comment and more varied public comment. I think in the past, when we had a meeting in Los Angeles, a lot of time our attendees were from the greater Los Angeles area, just for the sake of travel. And the reverse, when we met in Sacramento, we would tend to get largely Sacramento people that were able to come and comment at our meeting. With the online platform, I think it's really great for the board to be able to get the input from across the state from one location. And so I think it helps a lot for you guys to make a more informed decision because you have the greatest input possible.
I actually agree with you, and I hope sometime in the future we can have some hybrid model, but I know we're all trying to figure that out. But I appreciate everybody all over the state and even outside of the state being able to listen to the work that we're doing and pose questions and just make it a more robust conversation. So looking forward to the future. Thank you for your comments.
Did anyone else have any questions on the projections before we move forward? I'm not seeing any, so interrupt me if anybody comes up with something. Otherwise, I'm going to move to page 41, which is our overall fund condition. This fund condition, mostly we direct everybody's attention down to months in reserve because the 6 months is our trigger for not being able to fund the transcript reimbursement fund. So you can see that we've got a nice stable projection going forward. This current budget includes a $200,000 transfer. Well, for last year's fiscal year, excuse me, there was 200,000 that was transferred into the TRF. Going forward, we're just including 100,000 for budgeting purposes, but I think you can see from the months in reserve, we look pretty robust. And if we need to make a second transfer, I'm quite confident it will be available. So do we have questions on the overall fund condition?
Ms. Hurd, I see your hand, but is that from the last time?
No, I have another question. I'm sorry.
No, please, absolutely.
I think it's important to get many of these things in the public comments. And so in particular, when I was looking on this page, I focused my eyes on the renewal fees. That's one area that I'm targeting in on with concern. We know we're aware that less than 4 are graduating with a license. And so I'm always curious, and I'm wondering if there is any trends or any thoughts that you had, Ms. Finner, on that number. Because it looks like that's an area that we should be focused on.
We definitely have a downward trend in the renewal revenue. It would be due to the number of licensees that are retiring. We right now have an imbalance in the sense that we have fewer people being licensed each year and a greater number retiring. So it's a downward trend right now.
I guess for the board, I just want to highlight that we need to take a concentrated effort again as to how we're going to impact that in a good way. And I don't think I have an answer to it exactly yet. Probably would have $1 million if I did. But as we come out of the wake of COVID, we should really focus on that. That's a concern for me.
Good point. Thank you.
I'm seeing no other questions, so we're going to move on to the transcript reimbursement fund. That one I'm going to hand off to Paula Bruning, our staff person that does the administration of that fund for us.
Thank you, Ms. Finner. Just reporting to close out 2021. On the pro bono side, we paid out over $96,000. And on the pro per side, that closed out at approval of over $18,000 in applications. As a reminder, the fund did open partway through the fiscal year on November 2nd, 2020. And then coming into the beginning of this fiscal year, so far we have paid out $8,500 on the pro bono side, and over $6,000 has been approved on the pro per side. We do have a few pending applications for each, around 20 to 25 on average. Does anyone have any questions?
Ms. Hurt?
Was definitely my hand stayed raised, but I will make a comment, which is I'm so glad to see this open. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, anybody can contact me if they have additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bruning, for all of your hard work in the administration of this really important fund. It's rewarding to be able to help so many people. Moving the board on to enforcement statistics, you'll see them on pages 43 and 44 of the board meeting materials. I'm happy to answer questions in working with enforcement staff. They're reporting that the complaints, there are no unusual complaints. The two most common complaints that we receive remain accuracy of the transcript and timeliness of production. Do we have any questions?
I am not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, in that case, I will move on to item 4.4 and say it's with a heavy heart that I report the closure of Argonaut Court Reporting Program at the Charles A. Jones Career and Education Center here in Sacramento. As an Argonaut graduate, it's especially bittersweet to see such a valuable alternative to formal college no longer be available to students coming out of high school, as well as to adults that are looking to change careers. This leaves us with 6 public schools and 1 private school that are recognized by the Court Reporters Board. Do we have any questions on the school closure?
I see no hands raised from the board.
I do see a public comment hand raised.
Okay, you're going to take, You're going to take, I apologize. I thought we were going to take at the end, ask for public comment on the entire report, but if you would like to
Your
take it
pleasure.
piece by piece, that's fine too.
If you want to leave it to me.
Actually, I'm glad if there's a hand raised in that, yes, let's go ahead. Moderator, if you could open for Q&A from the public.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will go ahead and give Bonnie Chaffer the ability to unmute herself. And Bonnie, you're unmuted.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. And you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Wow. I really just wanted to say something just briefly. And Lori Dahl, my coworker, is also on watching, and it's kind of emotional for me, but I just don't know how to sum up almost 60 years of Argonaut. And the wheels were set in motion, and it was not our decision. Of course, COVID didn't help. But on a positive note, we still get, several inquiries a week. And I send them back all the information on court reporting schools in California, both public and private. I've been in the industry for over 36 years, and court reporting has been so very good to me. 24 of those years, I've been an instructor here at Argonaut, and I've made many friends along the way, but more importantly, serving the students and the public was such a passion of mine, and it still is. We've gone through many dedicated teachers who poured their hearts and souls into our program, and we've produced well over 1,000 court reporters, and really that's Argonaut's legacy. So I just wanted to, or actually both Lori and I really would like to just thank you so much for your support over the years. And it's just meant so much to us. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve our students, the community, as well as all of you. Argonaut will truly live on in our hearts forever, and its legacy will be carried on throughout or through those who have touched, we've touched, and through our students who become reporters. So thank you so very much. We really appreciate it.
All right, this is the moderator, and I don't see any further requests for public comment. Madam Chair, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay. It's closed.
So, thank you. Moving on to an update of our license exam.
Can I make a comment? I'm sorry, I had my hands raised.
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize.
That's okay. I'm sorry. I'm probably talking too much, but I was moved by the public speaker, and I just wanted to thank her personally for teaching and having passion behind court reporting. One of the greatest gifts that we can give folks is a great education. And it sounds like at Argonaut, that's exactly what happened. And she was a part of that, along with the teachers and the school. And I know it's a bittersweet ending, but the legacy is great court reporters. And I just wanted to thank her and again, everyone who worked at that school. Thank you for allowing me time to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hurt.
Turning our attention now to the exam. On page 45, we have statistics from the skills portion. And I would point out to the board members, if these look familiar, they are the same ones that were in our April board book, because our last testing cycle is just coming to a conclusion, and the results will be mailed out next week. So we didn't have time to finalize them in time to get into the board meeting packet. But we've also got the overall for the professional practice exam and the English exams, the 2 written portions. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or I think now would be a good time for the public that wanted to address something about the exam platform.
All right, this is the moderator. I have opened up the Q&A panel if people want to request a comment using that. And I also see we have Angela Oliveira with her hand up. So Angela, I'll unmute you. Just a reminder, you have 3 minutes. All right, Angela, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you
Okay,
go.
thank you.
You're welcome.
My concerns are twofold, and good morning. I am an owner of a court reporting agency. I also have a daughter who is a court reporting student trying to pass her test. She's taken the test 4 times via the ProctorU. Each time there's been a problem. And I have her packet in front of me that, how you have to take the test. It's very, very, it's just, I think it's really difficult for these kids to take the test when the process is not working. I know that as owning a firm myself, we are in desperate need of reporters. I would hope, my hope is that maybe they could get back into in-person. If not in person, maybe one-on-one where they could sit with a proctor and the proctor can help them if something goes wrong, because these kids are basically left alone trying to figure out the logistics of, the internet. I was sitting with her when she was trying to speak with ProctorU to figure it out. When she was doing it, her computer started going in a circle, where I was able to see it just went offline, and that's what's been occurring. So my hope is that you take a look at that. I think it's very discouraging for the students when they can't. This last time, my daughter wasn't even able to complete the test. She took it twice. Each time she was logged off. I spoke with Kim Kale. She said I should come to this meeting to address our concerns. I just think it's really difficult for the kids to be able to actually even complete the test. So I'd appreciate if maybe that could be looked into. I think it's a very, very big problem. And that's all.
Thank you for your comment. Do we have any other members of the public that, and actually, I should say thank you for your comment, and we appreciate the information.
This is the moderator. We have a comment in the question answer. It says, is there an alternative to using ProctorU? They do not understand what reporting students are doing. I would be willing to volunteer as a proctor. There are so many problems with ProctorU. And that was from Deborah Alvino. And I'm looking at our list of attendees. I see no more raised hands. And we do have Alyssa Oliveira. Alyssa, I'll give you permission to unmute yourself.
Hi
Alyssa,
there.
yes.
Okay, hi. Thank you guys all for hearing us out. My mom is the one who just spoke on my behalf in regards to my experience. And I would just like to provide my experience from the test taker point of view. I am very computer literate. I am very experienced in navigating different systems. I would like to note that this was my 4th time taking the online examination through ProctorU and my real-time coach. So it is not as if I'm unfamiliar with the test platform. I have quite often in prior experience run into a few issues, but they've always been able to be resolved. And I would like to note as well that the proctors are competent. It's not that they're incompetent. They're just limited in what they are capable of doing, as they are only there to serve as somebody to oversee it. So my isn't necessarily with ProctorU as a platform. It is more with, I was informed by my proctor that it is an institutional problem with my real-time coach. And I have taken my practice test, and I believe that the reason that they stated that, I have 4 friends also taking the examination, and they all ran into technical errors with my real-time coach as well on different days, different occasions. And we have always been informed to go through ProctorU to do our system checks. And as of this last test, I was informed that I should have gone through my real-time coach, which it's not in the instructions in our manual online through the Court Reporters Board website. And I would just like to know how discouraging it is. I want to work so deeply badly. Like, I would love to be working right now. And this was extremely discouraging because it wasn't a reflection of my capabilities. It was a reflection of technical error and not being able to complete a test. And I think that everyone, especially court reporters, know that doing Zoom court reporting depositions, anything online makes it a bit harder, but not being able to complete it due to technical errors outside of what I'm able to control is very frustrating and discouraging, and it is tough to deal with.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms.
And then
Oliveira, for the comment.
This is the moderator. We have someone that typed into the chat their comment. Our students have had similar problems, and that was from Maggie Ortiz. And I'm just looking at our list of attendees. I see no more raised hands. We do have Trisha Tabaris, who is agreeing with Alyssa Oliveira. She says, I think it would be great if we can get our 3 hours back as well. So that's another typed comment. All right, I see no more raised hands. Carolyn Dasher has raised her hand. Sorry, Carolyn, I missed you. So Carolyn, I'll let you know when you have been unmuted or can unmute yourself.
Hi, good morning.
Carol, good morning.
Thank you. Thank you. I just had a question, and in the stats for the test results, the exam results, are the people who have technological issues taking the online test, are those stats reflected under people failing the test? I'm just wondering if those stats are affecting the actual percentage of students that are passing the test. Perhaps we need to have another area to show that, because that's really not reflective of the skill of the test takers. So I just had that question, and I'm assuming that that if someone has technical difficulties, they just fail the test, and that's part of the stats. Is that true?
Madam Chair, if I can address that right now. I would let you know that it's similar to the way we did it when it was in person. So when they were in-person tests and people sat through the test and then for whatever reason decided not to complete their transcript and turned in an incomplete transcript, we still counted them as a failed test because they had access to the test and whatever reason did not pass it. So we're using that same philosophy or that same reasoning for the online tests. So if you were given access to the complete test, and then whether it's technical difficulties for producing the transcript or the transcript was not accurate enough, we don't go into the reasons why. It's more if you had access to the entire test, then you're part of the statistics. If you were bumped off for technical reasons and did not have a chance to see the complete test, then you're not part of the statistics.
Okay, thank you. Then I would make a suggestion that perhaps Any incomplete test be shown in the statistics as an incomplete test and have the board consider that for the future, just for purposes of having accurate statistics.
Well, I would say they're accurate because the reason for the incomplete test could be because somebody felt they weren't fast enough and their notes aren't clean enough to bother transcribing. That's a very important statistic.
Thank you. And I agree with that statement, but if there are people having technical difficulties, then I think it changes the statistic. It's just a consideration perhaps the board can discuss at a future time. Thank you.
All right, our next request for comment is from Anna Fatima Costa, and you should be able to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes.
Great. I am Ana Fatima Costa, a retired CSR, and I train and coach and mentor core reporting students. I have a question and then a statement. I'm really curious how the entire testing process works once an examinee submits, and I will address the issues that I've heard from my students. Well, once the examinee submits the test, what happens after the fact? Who corrects and grades it? I noticed, I read the meeting minutes, but where does RTC's involvement end? And how do modifications get made if the graders find that, in fact, there were errors marked that should not have been?
Madam Chair, I can address that if you like.
Please.
So RTC is set up to grade the test against the master. And so for tests that are like the RPR, that's a very effective tool. For tests like the California CSR that's in a 4-voice format, that doesn't work at all because the computer isn't able to make the differentiation between one way of setting up a question by. We have a million different types of bylines that are acceptable. So for California, all of the tests are regraded. They're basically graded by hand. So there are human graders that do all of our testing grading.
So if the tests are regraded by hand,
I wouldn't even call it regraded, Anna, because of the 4-voice formatting and the endless variations that are acceptable, virtually no one would pass the test based on just a simple comparison between their transcript and the master, unless they happen to have exactly our format that we submitted for the grading purposes. Does that make sense?
Actually, no, I'm confused because I was repeating the word you used, regraded by hand. So are you clarifying what you said before? They are not, in fact, regraded by hand?
So RTC provides a grade. That grade is meaningless because of the 4-voice formatting issues. So you can call it regraded if you like, but every single test starts from scratch with the grading, with a human being.
Okay, so RTC submits the tests to whoever is going to be grading them, and they're going to go through and correct any errors that may be not actual errors.
Correct.
And then what happens? So what has changed is there is no longer an appeals process, correct?
Correct.
And if the tests are regraded by hand or checked by hand, again, maybe by as many as 3 people, according to your minutes, then why would then the CRB not do what it's done when we were in person, which is to, at the request of the examinee, to get their transcript back marked up in order for them to understand where they made errors for the future?
Because we don't operate like we did when we were in person. When we were in person, there was one test that everybody got at the same time, and at the end it was available to everybody. And so, yes, you could return tests. With moving to the online platform, it's similar to the way the written tests operate. There's a finite test bank of questions, or in the skills portion, there's a finite number of recorded tests that become available. So if we gave people back their transcripts, that would easily be shared, and we would have to take that test out of the test bank permanently.
Understood. Thank you. So I would like to request an audit of exactly where the problems are. I have received multiple emails, texts, messages, phone calls from students, candidates, with issues, as Alyssa mentioned, that are not based on their level of skill, but on technology and lack of understanding on the part of Proctor U. The focus of the exam process is student satisfaction and student success, but their opportunity to pass, if they successfully provide an exam, that has to be considered. The appointing of the exam is not to discourage students or to force them to be disqualified for things that are outside of their control and have nothing to do with their skill. All the things that are problematic that don't relate to their skills should be removed from the exam process so that students can be tested fairly on their skills, not on that other stuff. I would like to know the process by which we can get this audit done. There are too many instances of students' dissatisfaction. I understand that having this online has saved the Core Reporters Board a great deal of money, which is why your report indicated, which is great. Saving money is great, but if the exams are not doing what they're meant to do, which is to certify candidates so that they can get out there and capture the record, then the money part should be reconsidered. The entire focus of the board is consumer protection. Of course, we are reminded of that on a regular basis. The consumer is not fully protected if there aren't enough reporters around, enough qualified, certified reporters to do the job of capturing and protecting the record per the Core Reporters Board's best practice pointer number 1, how to interrupt proceedings. The consumer is not served. And if the consumer is considered the litigant only or his qualified representative lawyer, then the Core Reporters Board is not considering that the core reporters themselves are consumers. We need to put this through the lens of the consumer, all the consumers. The current exam is not providing the necessary avenue for core reporters to be properly tested so they can go out and be well-trained CSRs. That does not serve the public. I thank you for listening to me, and I look forward to your response. I will be submitting a letter with more details. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fatima Acosta. I have a couple comments. I would like to point out that because we were able to pivot so quickly to online testing when COVID hit, we have, at least as of March of 2021, licensed, I believe the number is 47 new CSRs. At least 47 new CSRs passed our skills portion, which is, I believe, so that number should be pretty accurate. And we've had additional, I believe the numbers just haven't gotten on this sheet. That's what you reported, Ms. Fenner. So but for that, we would have 0 in the last 18 months. So that was one thing I wanted to point out. The other thing is these statistics going back, and I'm not saying there's not problems with ProctorU. I don't want to come across as there's not problems. I get that. But I do want to point out that the statistics going back from before we pivoted to online are pretty consistent, the pass rate. And I'm concentrating on the skills portion. The last thing I wanted to ask is if Ms. Fenner, if you could address the ProctorU aspect, if you've got any kind of information for us and the people who've raised the members of the public who've raised the issue.
Yes, so we are fully aware that there have been difficulties with ProctorU on occasion. We do not contract with ProctorU. So our contract for the online administration of the test is with my real-time coach. And so they're a subcontractor basically to RTC. It's out of our hands. We definitely give feedback to real-time coach, letting them know when there are issues. I think that a lot of the problem comes from the fact that ProctorU does not have dedicated proctors to individual industries. So they are proctoring tests across 1 million industries, across 1 million institutions. Now I'm exaggerating with 1 million, but many, many institutions, universities, high schools, vocational programs, they do all of that. So on any given day, the proctor picks up their assignment for that particular time, and they pick up what they call basically a flight plan. So there are instructions given for that particular test. At the end of the day, they're human like everyone else. They may believe that what they just did with a different industry applies to this new one that they picked up. There are different levels of training that the proctors get. So it's a pretty complicated problem. At the end of the day, it's out of our control because it's not a contract decision that we make.
Thank you for that explanation. Ms. Hurt, I saw your hand raised.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. Just with any new testing approach, there's going to be issues that surface that we need to solve. And so I appreciate the feedback. And I think we're all concerned and concentrated on this being a test that is about consumer protection, that we're hiring folks who can do the job well. I think I've stated publicly in the past that I've wanted to also see one in-person testing just because of different ways of learning and different skills. But I would say now with COVID, how it's impacted that wish a little bit and causing us to kind of think more deeply about this. In other words, needing to be quick and able to function through online. It is a part of a skill that I think we're all going to have to learn and be better about, because I don't see it going away and we all hope COVID gets under control sooner than later, but I think it is a little bit of a new norm to be online and being able to navigate that. I believe when we signed on to do the remote testing, we did want to circle back around to see how the remote testing is going. And we have 3 tests under our belt. And so it would be good to maybe get a few more tests and agendize this in the future to review exactly how things are going, pros and cons, just so we can get it out on the table. Whether that's an audit, I'm not quite sure how we would go about doing that. I trust in our Ms. Finner to handle that well, but I do hear the concerns. We are all concerned that we want to get as many court reporters out that are licensed and that can do the job. But I also want to remind folks that this is a new norm, and being able to navigate the internet is going to be important. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Hurt. Did we have any further members of the public who would like to comment on our executive officer's report? Any aspect of it?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have 2 additional requests for public comment. The first one being from Alyssa Olvera wanting to make a clarifying statement, followed by Anna Fatima Costa. So we'll start with Alyssa. All right, Alyssa,
Hi.
you're unmuted.
Hi there. Yes, I just was requesting clarification, specifically from Ms. Fenner in regards to the statement that when there is technical error in comparison to the in-person test, that we are counted in the overall count, which I was lucky enough to be able to take the last in-person test prior or before COVID hit and we went online. And I do understand that I have seen people during that test attempt it and either feel it was too sloppy from nerves, whatever the reason may be, and not write it up fully. But my disagreement lies in the fact that when that happens, they are able to get the full dictation, and it just was a reflection of their skill and they need to improve. In this test scenario specifically, I did not get more than 4 minutes of dictation, and then that was ruled out. And also to touch on, I understand that the board is not responsible for ProctorU, and I understand now that you guys contract my real-time coach. My question is, imagine for you guys feeling that you are not responsible for ProctorU or have no control over it, how that feels for the test taker, because I have done everything that I can to make sure technologically I've gone through all the steps, taken the practice tests, checked the requirements that they have through ProctorU. So I guess I'm just asking you guys to take a look at the fact that taking in person, there is not at all. We get the warm up, we make sure everybody can see, can hear, and then you take the test and then you transcribe it. There is very minimal technical errors unless you were ill prepared and did not have the things that you should for the state test in person. Whereas compared to the online test, there was nothing more I could have done to be more prepared technologically. It was completely out of my hands. It wasn't a connection issue. I took my practice examination. So I would just like that looked at, and I would like to know if I will be counted as a fail for this test because of that.
I would encourage her to contact Kim Kale. And I don't think we need to be talking about specific students or specific candidates' experiences. If they want to make a generalization, that's good. But to go this far into it would require us to work with licensing and testing staff.
Thank you. I would also just put out there for for those taking the test or for those representing people who are sitting for the test. I know that the professional the state associations have had put on seminars specifically geared to helping test takers be in the best prepared position. So I have not attended one of those myself, but I do know they're out there just as something to offer for help. Ms. Hurt, you had your hand raised?
A question, and hopefully I don't catch Ms. Finner by surprise on this question, but I was just curious if you had a number, a roundabout number on how many written or phone call complaints we've had about the test.
I don't have a number for you, no.
Okay. Have we had at least one?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there are technical difficulties with each test. Typically, it's not the same person, but yes, there are always issues.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right.
If I could just, I'm sorry if I could just add to that. There were always issues with the online or the in-person as well. There was never a test that it went 100%. So that's, I think, job security for board staff because we're there to help solve those problems.
Thank you. Moderator, did we have any other members of the public that wanted to make a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do not have any new members of the public wishing for a comment, but we do have some repeat requests. The first one coming from Anna Fatima Costa, and then it looks like Angela Alvera is wanting to speak again. So they have both already spoken, but if you would like me to let them speak again, I'm happy to do so.
I would ask that if you are going to speak again, it would only be on a new issue or new information, and that you limit your comments just in a to recognize the time constraints. But I'd be glad to hear from them.
All right, so I will unmute or allow Anna to unmute herself. So Anna, you should be able to unmute yourself. There you are, you're unmuted.
Thank you. Ms. Keys, you mean new issues that we did not discuss before? Is that what you mean?
Any new information, correct?
Okay.
In other words, not to reiterate the same information that's been shared. Yes.
Of course, understood. It's my understanding, I had an opportunity to speak with the Real-Time Coach representative, that Real-Time Coach, what they do is they are the deliverer of exams to the NCRA, the California board, Texas board, and others. And they have no control over the quality of the videos and the testing that is provided by their clients. So there have been many issues with sound, video, quality, dropped examinees being dropped for no understandable reason, even with proper broadband. And how it's been handled is that the candidates feel dismissed, that there's no empathy whatsoever, there's no responsiveness of what they've gone through all the months leading up to their exam, and that's all gone as a result of technology issues. With regard to ProctorU, if the CRB believes that it is relying on Real-Time Coach, I think, well, A, are the videos and the audios of the highest quality that are being delivered to Real-Time Coach? And B, ProctorU, if that's what Real-Time Coach is using, why not ask for something more that works better? Lastly, with regard to the state associations, there are many students that are not members, so they're not privy to that information. And with regard to an audit, I as Ms. Hurt was saying, was asking about, I respectfully request that an audit be made of all exams that have taken place since the Court Reporters Board offered them online. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Ms. Fenner, could you address specifically the process briefly that goes into the recording of the tests? Are you able to address that at all?
Yes, so
Thank
I'm
you.
very familiar with the recording of the tests. They are of the highest quality. They are audio and video both. That's the good news. The bad news is because they are videos of 15 minutes in length that you're all, I'm sure, aware of how much bandwidth that takes. So there are a number of technical issues that presents by having the test video and not just audio. So if they were just audio files, it would be much easier to deliver. But because of the enormous size of the file and the enormous CPU basically that you need as a candidate in order to download and run that without buffering. That's why we have unlimited free test taking. You can hook up as many times as you want and download the test and see if your equipment is working. I think what a lot of times happens with the candidates is they take advantage of that. They see that the file downloaded and they click play and it plays and they think they're good to go. They don't listen to the full 15 minutes and find out, oh, it's buffering every 30 seconds or every minute or every whatever. They don't, yes, they technically logged on to their practice exam. They didn't complete it all the way through to see if there were any technical issues. So that's just an example of the type of things that come, but I would take exception with the fact that there's anything sub-professional about the recording. The difficulty lies with the size of the fact that it's video.
Thank you. And Ms. Tugade, you've had very patiently, you've been waiting with your hand raised.
Thank
So
you,
if you
Chair.
have a comment.
Yes, I just had a question to Ms. Fenner. Does Proctor U or my real-time coach provide any metrics when an examination can't be completed, as far as, you know, our ability to differentiate between someone who's just submitting an incomplete test for whatever reason versus someone who's having a technical issue? And then within that, are we able to get any kind of information on the types of technical issues people are facing?
They don't provide that. I can find out. I don't even think that they can provide that program by program. It would involve our staff looking at each individual test to see, and then making the human evaluation, how much of it was due to technical and how much was it not. The reason I'm not inclined to go that direction is because of the fact that we have seen a number of our candidates that either don't take advantage of the practice exams or they're allowed two proctored practices as well without additional cost. We see a number of people not taking advantage of that and then having technical difficulties. So there are a lot of factors that you would have to consider in order for those, if you just counted the people that were unsuccessful because of technical difficulties, but you didn't go back and say, but you had a chance to correct it. You didn't even try to hook up your equipment to see if it was going to work. You didn't ask the rest of your family to get off your internet so you would have dedicated internet for that 2 hours or whatever the case may be. There are so many factors that go into it. I'm not sure that just the sheer number of people not completing for technical difficulties would be a meaningful statistic.
Thank you for that clarification. That's helpful.
Thank you. I believe, did we have one more member of the public that had a further comment? And I would ask you if we have someone who's already spoken before, if you could limit your comment to a minute, that would be appreciated.
All right, so our next request is from Angela Alvera. And so if you could keep it to a minute, Angela, I will go ahead and unmute you or let you unmute yourself. Okay, you're
Okay,
unmuted.
thank you. Yes, one comment too, actually. I think that it was completely explained to me now, the bandwidth. I think that is a problem we have here because we have the circle go round and round and round. Um, my daughter did take all of the practice tests, and we did have everyone get off of the internet. So now that we know that, how are we able to fix that? How is my daughter able to actually complete a test? I have sometimes
30
four
seconds.
Zoom meetings running out of my household. I own a court reporting firm. Never have any problems, but with this test, there is problems. There are problems. So that my concern is, how do we fix that? I just would really like to know that, and I would appreciate some help with that. And one other comment I would have is I think that every reporter should be able to get a complete test. I don't.
This is the moderator, and that minute was up. We have Anna Fatima Costa asking for another comment. And Anna, you'll have a minute.
Thank you. I appreciate Ms. Chagotti's comment and question, and would again like to ask for an audit. And that my voice got cut off right my prior comment, and so the Court Reporters Board exists only by way of court reporters paying licensing fees, and if the issues are technology based, then it behooves the board to ensure that all of those issues are addressed with
30
understanding
seconds.
and empathy, and to not to make the test easy but doable, and to have the participants be tested on their skills, not the technology. This is a big issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you all for your comments. I do want to just offer that I'm an official reporter in San Diego, and I've been working since we reopened following the COVID closures. There has been such, and of course everything was remote for well over for many months, and now we're to a hybrid, but kind of things are going back the other way. But there has been such a learning curve for every participant, from parties, witnesses, attorneys, court staff, all of us, with remote appearances in for court proceedings. So I understand what everyone is going through. I think Ms. Hurd addressed this issue early on in this discussion, that we knew going in that there was going to be a learning curve. I'm not poo-pooing all the comments that were made, absolutely, and that there are some issues that I'm sure we as a board will be following up with. But I share your pain because I've been living it as well. So, as well as everyone participating in the court system for the past 18 months. So, with that, I want to thank, I believe, I don't see any other hands from the board. I'm almost afraid to ask moderator if we have any further comments for the public, but I will ask you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking and I don't see any further raised hands. In the comment section, a couple of things were typed that ProctorU creates a detailed report recording and technical issues, and that they don't have access to the test prior to the proctor logging us on via their code. So, but other than that, it looks like we can close the Q&A panel if we're ready to move on.
Yes, please. Yes,
Okay.
please.
All
And
right,
with
it's
that,
closed.
Thank you. With that, I want to thank Ms. Fenner for her executive officer report.
I
We
have
saw-
more.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay, please.
That was just through the exam portion, which was 4.5. I promise the other two will be quick.
Okay.
Moving on to 4.6, which is the business modernization. I just wanted to report that we continue to have a good response to our online renewals. And also point out for the board that with the larger reversion, it's possible that we may be able to get back into a cohort that would allow us to participate in a more global modernization that would include all of our licensing and all of our enforcement. So I'm keeping an eye on that. Ms. Hurt did point out that our revenue trend is slightly going down, and so that's my hesitation in jumping back into a cohort until we know if that's how stable this position is going to be. But I just wanted to put that back on the board's radar, so to speak. Did anybody have specific questions on business modernization?
I am not seeing any hands.
Okay, and then real quickly, I think everybody saw that the CRB Today newsletter came out. We're hoping to have it posted up on our website by next week. You'll be able to get some more in-depth on some of the topics that we talked about. For instance, there is an article by the instructors from Argonaut, and I think it has some nice history and provides some good background. Anybody that's is a member of our subscriber list will get an email as soon as that's posted. And that, Madam Chair, concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fenner. Sorry. Thank you so much for your report. And before we move on to the next agenda item, I would like to suggest we take a 15-minute comfort break. And I have seen no hands or objection to that, so it's 10:25. We'll see everyone back at 10:40. And I do want to follow up with one thing I wasn't sure of that I was able to confirm when we were on our break, and that is when at least I know that for sure CCRA put on a seminar for test takers, CSR test takers, to best prepare them for taking the CSR or California CSR, and I was able to confirm that the invite went out to anybody, member, non-member, and all the schools were notified to invite their students. So, and my understanding is they had 30 to 40 attendees that day. So hopefully we see some, I thank them for putting on that seminar, and hopefully we see some benefit from that in our statistics that we look at our next meeting, reflected in the pass rate of the exam. So. With that, we will start off with agenda item number 5.1, which is reciprocity with the state of Texas. Included in the board meeting materials, beginning at page 3, is the report and findings from the Office of Professional Examination Services, what we call very slowly OPES for short. I'd like to welcome Amy Welsh-Gandy, who is a Research Data Supervisor 2 with OPES, who is going to share a summary with the board at this time. I'd also like to welcome Dr. Tracy Montez. Dr. Montez's title is Chief Division of Programs and Policy Review for the Department of Consumer Affairs. Welcome, ladies. And Amy, if you would like to begin your presentation.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Amy Welch-Gandy, and I'm a test specialist from the Office of Professional Examination Services. And
Hey.
I am joined,
I'm sorry, were you going to
Yes.
be on camera? Amy, just checking.
Let me just try again. I
And if you're
tried to
not,
put
that's fine,
myself
but
on camera.
it's not a problem. I'm seeing your PowerPoint, so if however you want to proceed is fine. I just wanted to give you a heads up
Yeah,
that we
no
cannot
problem.
see
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
So,
I'm just not sure why it's not allowing me to.
no worries.
So sorry about that. So again, Amy Welch-Gandy. I am joined by our division chief, Dr. Tracy Montez. And we are here again to give you an overview of our report on the National Court Reporters Association Registered Professional Reporter Examinations. And we were requested by the Court Reporters Board License Reciprocity Task Force to complete this review, and we're going to go over that review in this presentation. Next slide, please. In this presentation, we will be providing information about OPES and who we are. We will go over the steps in a national examination review. We will discuss OPES's evaluation of the NCRA RPR tests with a summary and recommendations, and then answer any questions that you may have. Next slide, please. The Office of Professional Examination Services provides professional consulting services and examination validation and development to DCA's boards, bureaus, and committees. So we work with quite a few of those boards and bureaus under the department. We also provide recommendations based on regulations, professional guidelines, and technical standards related to licensure examinations. Next slide, please. Taking a look at the big picture, the purpose of licensing and DCA's mission is to protect the public. And the purpose of licensure examinations is to identify those practitioners who can practice safely and competently from those who cannot. Candidates who receive a license to practice should have the minimum level of competence necessary to practice safely. So licensure examinations must be developed to provide a valid and reliable method for doing this. And to be fair, when we are making decisions about who is legally allowed to practice, we must focus on entry-level tasks and knowledge important for public protection. Licensure examinations must protect consumers while not limiting access to occupations or putting up artificial barriers to practice. It is a balance between these two goals. We find that balance by ensuring that examinations focus on entry-level tasks and knowledge critical for public protection, and that examination processes are fair to candidates. Next slide, please. OPS mandate originates with Business and Professions Code Section 139. Business and Professions Code 139 requires that boards conduct an occupational analysis for each examination at regular intervals, and that boards submit a report every year indicating the status of their occupational analysis and examination development. Business and Professions Code Section 139 also mandates that OPES develop policies to ensure that licensure examinations are valid and that they are fair to candidates. The principles and standards require that in order to develop a valid test, First, a detailed description of the content domain of interest is needed. This is why we conduct an occupational analysis. In addition, a close link between test content and job content should be demonstrated. This is why examination providers use an examination outline to develop test questions. Most importantly, actively practicing licensees serving as subject matter experts or SMEs must be included in each step of the process. Next slide, please. Now let's talk more specifically about national examinations. Business and Professions Code Section 139 also mandates that all national examinations must be reviewed in accordance with policy guidelines set by OPES. All licensure examinations accepted for use in California professions regulated by DCA should be validated according to accepted technical and professional standards. These are the standards that were on the previous slide. We reference these standards throughout our report on this examination. California practice must be appropriately represented in an occupational analysis on a national level in order for the results to be valid for examination development in California. The suitability of examination content for California practice must be determined by a review of the occupational analysis, including the demographics of practitioners. Next slide, please. So these are the three parts of a national examination review. We begin with conducting a psychometric evaluation of the examinations. Next, we conduct a workshop with subject matter experts or SMEs to compare the national OA to the results of the California OA. And finally, we identify the extent to which the national examination reflects California practice and make recommendations. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about each of these steps in the next slide. Next slide, please. During the national examination review, we look at the occupational analysis methodology used by the national program. We look at their examination development procedures, how they write test questions, do they use subject matter experts? We look at how the passing score is set. We look at how the examination is scored. Do we think it's a fair process? Are they using the standards or following the standards? We look at passing rates and we look at, compare them to California. Do we think that they're fair and comparable? We also review the test administration and security procedures. Next, we look at information available to candidates. Is the national program being transparent? Are they providing everything that a candidate needs in order to be successful? We also look at ADA accommodations, and we want to make sure that the program is allowing for ADA accommodations that are reasonable for candidates. Next slide, please. In our report, we found that both the RPR skills test and written knowledge test generally meet psychometric standards. In line with the standards, the written knowledge test was linked to an OA or occupational analysis. However, there was no OA linked to the skills test, which does not meet standards. We recommend that NCRA's next OA focus on the full practice of the court reporting profession so that it can be linked to both the written knowledge and skills test. Another concern was the use of educators serving as subject matter experts. In California, we have a formal policy stating that board members and educators should not be involved in the exam development process due to potential conflicts of interest. Next slide, please. National examinations by definition test aspects of practice that apply to all states. If there are areas of practice that vary across states, these will not be covered. Many occupations have California-specific aspects of practice. Most commonly, laws, and ethics. These will not be covered on a national examination. For a licensure examination, the goal is to measure the full scope of practice in California. We use the results of the California OA to determine if there are areas specific to California practice that are not assessed by a national examination. Next slide, please. In the evaluation of the RPR skills test, OPS worked with a group of licensed court reporters serving as subject matter experts. These SMEs were practicing in the profession and familiar with the requirements of performing in actual court reporting settings. Due to the lack of an OA, OPS and the SMEs evaluated and compared the format of the skills test to the format of the California dictation examination. The format of the skills test had several key differences from the dictation exam. For example, the dictation exam uses 4-voice, while the skills test uses 2-voice. The dictation exam requires 10 minutes of continuous writing, while the skills test only requires 5 minutes. The dictation exam is given in one test setting, while the skills test is taken in 3 legs. And the dictation exam requires an accuracy rate of 97.5%, while the skills test only requires an accuracy rate of 95%. Because of these key differences, OPS, along with SMEs, found that the skills test was not parallel to the dictation exam at this time. Next slide, please. OPES worked with the same SMEs to link the written knowledge test to the English and professional practice examinations. In linking the written knowledge test with the English examination, the SMEs found that all of the content assessed by the English examination was covered on the written knowledge test. In linking the written knowledge test with the professional practice examination, the SMEs found that 31% of the tasks and 41% of the knowledge statements were assessed by the written knowledge test. As a result, OPES, along with the SMEs, found that the written knowledge test was not parallel to both the English and professional practice examinations at this time. Next slide, please. In summary, OPES found that the RPR written knowledge test generally meets psychometric standards, but the content of the professional practice examination is not adequately assessed by the written knowledge test. Regarding the skills test, an OA is needed to support content validity and job relatedness. Additionally, the RPR skills test is not parallel to the dictation examination at this time. OPES recognizes that the review process of national examinations is an iterative process. We're happy to incorporate any additional data and collaborate with the board on further reviews. We recommend that the board periodically check with NCRA for updates to the test and the OA. Next slide, please. Thank you for having us, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Mute, Chair.
Thank you, and I apologize. Do we have any questions from the board specifically about the report that Ms. Welsh-Gandy just presented? Ms. Hurt?
Thank you, Chair. I was curious whether NCRA suggested that they would cure any of the deficiencies in the OA.
They did not say at this time. I believe they listened to our suggestions and would take that into consideration in the future.
Okay,
They were open.
Okay, they were open. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Do we have any members of the public that have a question for Ms. Welsh-Gandy just on the report she just presented.
This is the moderator. Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel, and if any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type that you would like to make a comment, submit it to all panelists, or you may raise your hand. We'll give you a moment. Madam Chair, this is the moderator. I see no request for comment at this time. Shall I close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
Thank you, Amy, for that presentation. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
The task force met via video conference with representatives from Texas on July 14th, 2021, where a similar presentation was made to the attendees. After much discussion with the public attendees and the task force members, the consensus was to recommend to the board that it pursue reciprocity with Texas, but not with NCRA regarding the RPR. It is my understanding that Dr. Montez has been in contact with representatives from Texas in order to see if more information, specifically an occupational analysis, can be obtained. I note that staff recommendation is not to move forward with reciprocity with Texas or the RPR at this time. Stepping back to my board chair role, I will now ask if there is any member of the public that would like to add any new information to this topic. We've had several meetings where we've addressed this issue. And so I would ask for time's sake, if you would share only new information that has not already been brought to the board.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I open back up the question and answer panel. If any member of the public would like to comment, please type "I would like to make a comment" and submit it to all panelists, or you may raise your hand. We'll give you a moment. All right, we have Deborah Alvino who would like to make a comment. So Deborah, I will let you know when you've been unmuted or can unmute yourself. All right, Deborah, you're unmuted.
My name is Deborah Alvino. I want to address the shortage of CSRs and finding a solution by reciprocity. I have been a reporter since 1990 and am now a certified legal video specialist. I am contacted at least once a month by new digital reporting companies who are trying to recruit me as a digital reporter, which, as we all know, is not really reporting at all. I have inquired about these companies and who is regulating or monitoring their recording and transcripts. What they are doing seems illegal to me. Apparently, no one is doing anything about it, and it has opened the floodgates to these digital reporters and whomever is producing the transcripts, especially with most depositions still being done online. They are taking advantage of this opportunity, and the integrity of our legal system is in danger. I am in support of granting reciprocity to all RPRs, CRRs, RMRs, Texas court reporters, and anyone else certified and qualified who will help the California CSRs to cover depositions in court and maintain the integrity of the record. Also, the process for qualifying to take the CSR exam is becoming more difficult with most schools closing down, and I would like to see more opportunities for qualifying, such as an online qualifier given by CCRA. Please also consider giving the CSR test more often and giving 2 tests to choose from for transcribing. And finally, I do think that there would be enough volunteer proctors to be able to replace Proctor U if we were to ask CSRs to participate in assisting with online testing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alvino.
All right, this is the moderator, and I'm looking and not seeing any. Oh, we do have a new raised hand, Anna Fatima Costa. So Anna, I'll let you know when you're muted, and please remember you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I just want to 100% support what Deborah Alvino just said. Again, we have a shortage of reporters in various areas, and not allowing reporters from out of state that are qualified, overly qualified in some cases, to work here is allowing the influx of digital recorders to take hold. And these corporate agencies that claim there is a shortage, and that's why they're not, that they are sending digital recorders, is false. I believe it's fraud and illegal. And that they are not informing the attorneys that they are not sending a licensed certified court reporter. This is wrong. We need to do everything we can to ensure the integrity of the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
All right, our next request is from Charlotte Matthias. So Charlotte, I'll let you know when you're unmuted or can unmute yourself. All right, Charlotte, you're unmuted.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Matthias, CSR 9792 RPR. So I'm a little confused by staff's recommendation. I understand where it's coming from, but when I was at the reciprocity meeting, my understanding was that the task force recommended that we work with Texas on the next step of getting their qualifications being able to be looked at by OPES, but from what I'm hearing, staff is recommending going nowhere on it. So I'm just a little confused on the steps the board takes when you have a task force. And I think the task force voted yes on recommending to the board to work on getting Texas. But now you're saying staff is saying not to do anything, or am I just not understand what's going on? So that's where I'm at. Thanks.
Before we move on, moderator, I'd like to address that comment by Ms. Matthias. And to answer your question, Dr. Montez, as I reported just a few minutes ago, has reached out to Texas to ask if they are interested in doing an occupational analysis. I was there at I was part of the task force, and I will say I am going to out myself right here, right now. I too voted that we make a recommendation to the board to offer reciprocity with Texas. That meeting, I will, in my defense, I will say that that meeting started at 5:30. I had worked all day. It was a 2-hour meeting. We had a lot of meaningful discussion. And about a half an hour after that meeting, I sat down and the thought popped in my head, how can we recommend reciprocity with Texas when we have no recommendation from OPES, which is that's who we look to in California. That's who we look to give us guidance on whether a test is legally defensible. We don't have that. We've asked, and so I feel personally like I made a mistake because we really can't recommend that, or certainly well, I guess we could recommend anything, but as a board, the board, I feel, cannot act on that. So we've asked Dr. Montez, actually, she graciously offered to reach back out to Texas and ask if they would pursue an occupational analysis, because our hands are pretty much tied as a board with offering reciprocity when, well, I don't need to reiterate what I just said. So I don't think it's, well, that is my explanation for where we are. I don't know, am I allowed to, and I will just ask because I'm new to this as board chair, am I allowed to go back and forth between the board and the public comments, or should I stick with the public comments until we get through those? And I'm looking at you, Miss Fenner. I know you don't know that, but I wanted it, or
I
is it
would,
just
I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair. I would say that just because of the platform that we're on and when we have the moderator involved, it may be easier just for logistics to move through the public comment and then bring it back to the board. But there's nothing set. It's just, I think logistically, it might be a little bit more smooth.
okay? However, I did see Dr. Montez hand raised. I just realized that that's who the other hand was. Ms. Hurd, if you could hold your comment then. Uh, but perhaps Dr. Montez has information that would address the questions that were just asked. And then I'll go back to the public comment. Sorry for being cumbersome, trying to find my way here.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to add a bit. This is Tracy Montez, and I did reach out to Ms. Ingram of the Texas Court Reporters Association. We had a nice dialogue and did confirm, of course, Ms. Welch's findings. And we did supply her with information to help guide them if they choose to consider and pursue an occupational analysis. But I do concur with the staff's recommendation that it would be premature to move forward at this time. An occupational analysis can take several months to complete. And then once that's done, OPS would need to look at those findings. So certainly if they choose to move forward, we will stay in contact with them and then could alert the board when they may want to revisit this issue. But given that the board has many items to address, it really would be, I think, premature to assign staff to this. And we, again, wanted to reassure the public and stakeholders that we support reciprocity when it is feasible, but we really want to make sure that any court reporters coming into California have met those same competency standards and those expectations. So thank you for utilizing our services. Amy is happy to, or Ms. Welch is happy to stay in touch with the Court Reporters Association and continue to assist you as needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Montez. And moderator, if we could go back to public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our next request for public comment is from Mike Hensley. And Mike, I'll let you know when you're unmuted or can unmute yourself. All right, you're unmuted.
California's Court Reporter Association. And recently I had the privilege of representing California at the recent NCRA conference and its meeting and convergence of NICSA, the National Congress of State Associations. I can tell you that at that meeting, there was a discussion of the concept of interstate reciprocity or other considerations. And there seems to be consensus among several states throughout the nation that there is a recognized difference and importance in that difference between reciprocity and eligibility for examination. CCRA stands to say that we do not support reciprocity with a Texas license. However, we do feel there is a pathway to allow for Texas license holders to take portions of the California exam to prove their competency in our state. There are other states in our country that feel similarly that it's important for each state to have its own oversight to determine the competency of professionals practicing within its state, especially so that they can maintain jurisdictional oversight over professionals that are entering their territory. This is especially pertinent and relevant in consideration of the fact that nowadays, due to technological advancements, many reporters are seeking the opportunities to practice abroad. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hensley.
And we have Charlotte Mathias, who would like to comment again. So Charlotte, I'll let you know when you can unmute yourself, or you are unmuted. All right, Charlotte, you're unmuted.
Great, thank you. So I guess my question was more of a procedural question then. Thank you for the answer that you gave earlier. A lot of people that are at this meeting did not attend the task force meeting, so I think to hear staff doesn't recommend it isn't giving everybody at this meeting what really happened. So I understand part of the conversation, I think, and I think during the meeting I spoke along with the young lady who was on the task force from CCRA, who shared the concern that we were putting the horse before the cart with making sure that OPES worked with Texas before we recommended to the board. And I was told I was speaking out of turn, and you voted anyway to recommend to the board. So I guess my question is, I would be under the impression that you would still say that the task force recommended to go forward, but these are the problems that OPES has shown that need to be fixed before the board can vote on this. And I don't see that in the agenda, and I did not hear it being mentioned that, in fact, the task force did recommend to go forward with Texas, even though I know I shared my concerns that OPES needed to do their work first. And I know that the CCRA member on the task force also stated something similarly. So I just feel like that was left out of this conversation, that in fact the task force did recommend Texas if they could fix some of the issues that they had with OPES. So that's where I'm at. From a procedural point of view, I think it was left out that staff may say don't do it because they think OPES needs to look at it. But the task force was pro on allowing the next steps to go with Texas. And I don't think that's been said at this meeting until now. Thank you.
I misheard. Would you like to comment?
Jumping at the bit here because I know where she's going. And the reason why I raised my hand earlier is because this particular agenda item number 5 has 3 parts. And so in part 5.1, it actually does state that the task force recommended to move forward with Texas, whereas the staff recommended not to pursue it at this time. So it is clearly outlined that way, but it's almost like we started with 5.2, which there is a staff recommendation that deficiencies just need to be cured. So I just want to put that to the public and have them understand that there's 3 parts to this. And we did almost kind of start with 0.2, and we're merging 0.1 in there as well. But it clearly states that the task force did recommend to move forward. And I'll wait until public comment's over. I don't know if I interrupted it, but I thought it was appropriate to make that clear.
Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate that.
All right,
Any further? Go ahead.
This is the moderator. I see no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
So I want to thank all the members of the public for sharing your comments and your perspectives. And I will ask now, do any board members wish to address this topic? Ms. Hurt?
Sure. Okay, so first, many thanks to the task force for digging deep and just digesting all the details around the Texas reciprocity. I want to thank OPS for all the work they did. The report was very thorough and complete, and I'm very thankful for the work that they do to support the different boards. As we all know, this would be a really monumental change for us. And so I think from my perspective, I truly want it to be based off of facts and metrics and evidence of equivalency versus gut feelings. And right now, what I'm hearing from our experts is that for consumer protection, especially when that's at jeopardy, we should just work further with these entities to make sure that there is an equivalency. California has a standard of licensing, and they've created a balance. And I think that we should not in haste jump into reciprocity. And I found it kind of interesting how the task force had suggested. So thank you, Chair, for explaining kind of what some of the background was on moving forward with Texas, but not with the RPRs. And so I think as a board, maybe we should talk about that a little bit more. And I mean, this is complex stuff. I think we just need to have metrics. And what I'm hearing from OPS is that there's some still lacking. And we've had many meetings on this topic. I realize that. I also realize that we've got to get it right, though, for consumers and for their protection. And if it means 3 more months to see whether Texas is willing to actually have a review of the standards of OPS, OPES, am I missing? Yeah. OPES, then I think we should make time for that. And also another thing I wanted to point out, when we've talked about reciprocity over the years, and it has been years, that I have always heard folks talk about ensuring that our skills tests really reflect California, you know, whether it be equal or better. And so after everything I heard, you know, I don't know whether Texas in particular, we can say that it's similar. And maybe this is where I need to ask Dr. Montez or I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember everybody's name here. Miss Welch Gandy, I believe, whether there was a specific review for Texas. I know we did that for the NCRA RPR test, but specifically for Texas.
This is Tracy. Would you like me to answer? I'm sorry. Would you like me to answer?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
I was looking for my unmute button to call on you. Yes.
Thank you. And I will let Ms. Gandy, Ms. Welch Gandy jump in if she would like something to add. It's my understanding that OPS did try to review Texas, but again, because they did not have any of the foundational documents to establish evidence of content validation, we could not move forward. So they rely primarily on their statutes, which is one mechanism to support their exam, but in totality, they really need occupational analysis work to show the link between the job and the exam, because that's another very important aspect that the courts will look at if there are challenges to the exam. And so OPS did their very best to get information, but they could not move forward without that document. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's perfect. I wanted to separate that a little bit from the earlier conversation so it's clear, you know, we don't put them together, that specific with Texas, as you just said, the work or the documentation rather is not present for a solid recommendation to move forward with reciprocity as it relates to our California standards and licensing. So thank you very much for that comment. So this stuff is all really complex. I agree that I think it's a little premature, and I want to keep moving forward because I want to underline again that I do support reciprocity, but I also support that we have folks who are competent to California standards. And it just has not been proven to me yet with the documentation and all the work that so many individuals have put into this conversation so far. And I wanted to uplift a comment that was made by the public with regards to the reciprocity topic versus eligibility to take the test. And wondering, and maybe Ms. Finner, you don't have this information, but was there any conversation during the task force members as well, about Texas reporters not being eligible to take the test? When it comes to reciprocity, it's just basically saying, well, we know you passed in Texas, so you're good to practice here. But I'm just curious, have any of those folks tried to take the test and were not able to meet those standards?
I don't have that information. We do have people, obviously, from other states who qualify for the test based on having the RPR. That's one method of being eligible to take the California exam. So we have lots of out-of-state reporters that come in and are eligible. They're not limited to being graduates from the recognized schools from California.
Okay,
I don't have
perfect.
numbers, so I apologize.
That's okay, but I think that explanation is perfect to also lay the groundwork that it's not a hurdle, it seems, or not that great of a hurdle. People from out of state are still taking the test, and if they're competent, they're passing and practicing. So we're almost there, a little premature. I look forward to working with Texas more with regards to just the occupational analysis. Thank you.
Tony, Miss O'Neill, apologize. You had your hand raised.
That's okay. Well, I wanted to thank Davina for saying most of what I was going to say, and very eloquently so. I can see where maybe the confusion among the public, where it came from, is in the in 5.1, where it discusses the task force. You know, it says that the final recommendation to the board from the task force is to pursue reciprocity with Texas, but not with the RPR. And that was part of it, but that really wasn't the final statement. In other words, when the task force, what we had talked about was that, and sort of what follows in that next paragraph, where it says, following the conclusion of the task force, staff requested the OPES to invite Texas to, give them additional information. And that's really what the task force had talked about, is that we wanted to explore going further, have further conversation with Texas, but the Texas being able to meet the OPES standards, for lack of a better word, is something that needs to be worked out. So that's basically where we're at right now. And I don't think, and Davina said most of what I wanted to say. And I'm not complaining to Davina. You did a good job. Yeah, I just wanted to offer that clarification. Thanks.
Thank you, Miss O'Neill. And Dr. Montez, you had your hand raised, and then Miss Fenner will go to you.
Thank you. And just a gentle clarification. When we talk about OPS standards, it's really national testing standards that OPS follows. And so whether it's a firefighter's exam in New York or a clerical exam in Kansas or a certified shorthand reporter in California, these are all the same standards that the courts would look at if there were any challenges to the validity of the exam. Our legislature just found that these standards were so important back in the 90s that they created Business and Professions Code Section 139. So we have that specifically in California as a model that's even been referenced in professional journals. So I just want to, again, a gentle reminder, it's not OPS telling you what you should do, it's OPS recommending based on national testing standards. And again, I know the board's aware of that through our many presentations, but just want to make sure that the public and stakeholders who are listening understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fenner?
Thank you. I just wanted to add in, our licensing staff is listening to the meeting and reminded me that in addition to having the RPR as one avenue to qualify for our license exam, we also accept work experience, and the details of that are on our website. So if you are working in another state, that is a possibility as well.
Thank you. Seeing no further hands from the board, I am going to move on to agenda item number 5.3, the RMR/CRR reciprocity. I will start up by asking Ms. Finner, would you like to present this agenda item for us?
Wants you to present the CRR.
I'm sorry, thank you. Lost my place in the page. So we're on 5.3, just to clarify on the request from the California Court Reporters Association to do a reciprocity with the RMR and the CRR. And because the RPR is the basis for those higher certifications, I think we're in the same position we are, even though these demonstrate higher levels of proficiency, they're still going to be based on that same lack or deficiency with the occupational analysis that forms the basis of the RPR. So I would say at this time that we just don't move forward with that either.
Thank you, Ms. Fenner. And does any member of the public, would you like to weigh in on this topic? Specifically reciprocity with the CRR and or the RMR?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to make a comment, please type that you would like to make a comment, submit it to all panelists, or you may raise your hand. And I did see a raised hand earlier, Anna Fatima Costa, so I'll let you know when you've been unmuted. And please remember, we have a 3-minute time limit. All right, Anna, you're unmuted. Oh, you were unmuted.
Oh.
There you go. You're unmuted.
Okay, thank you. I have a question with regard to reciprocity in general. I'm not really understanding what Ms. Fenner, what you just said. It appears that you're equating RPR with RMR and CRR. That's question number one. Number two is, does the Court Reporters Board recognize or have reciprocity with any other state? I'm remembering something about Georgia.
Would you like me to address that, Madam Chair?
Yes, please.
So I am not equating the RPR with the RMR and the CRR. What I said was that the basis, you can't take the higher certifications without already having the RPR as the lower certification. That's the starting point for all of the national certifications relating to reporting. So I'm sorry for that confusion. As far as Georgia, there was a time when the Georgia license exam was 4-voice like ours, and so that allowed them eligibility to sit for our test. But at this time, there are no other states that offer 4-voice, so there are no other state exams that qualify that would allow you to qualify to sit for the California license exam. That was first part of the reciprocity, and currently there are no reciprocity with any other states or certifications. We would have to make regulatory changes to even allow that. Right now, it's not part of what we have in place.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Fenner.
you. May I have a follow-up?
Briefly,
Okay,
please.
definitely. Since California is the only state, basically, that's different from all the rest of the 49 for those who offer exams. Wouldn't it be perhaps a good consideration to reconsider testing to make these changes that will allow qualified, certified court reporters to practice in California? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, our next request for comment is from Charlotte Mattias. Charlotte, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Charlotte. Ms. Mathias.
This is a moderator. She's muted again. I'm trying to.
Oh,
There we go.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, the thing keeps popping up. I'm not touching it. Okay, hi, this is Charlotte Mathias, CSR 9792 RPR. So maybe Miss Montez or Welch Gandy can address this. I'm a little confused. Just because the RPR does not beat OPS and occupational analysis, can't the CMR and the CRR be evaluated and meet them? I understand that the professional practice will never match under NCRA because they don't cover California rules and laws. But the English, I think, didn't the English qualify? So I think what CCRA originally recommended was the skills portion, and that has not been evaluated by OPES, I believe. I think the written portion would still need to be taken, or possibly just the professional practice, but I don't believe the skills has been examined by OPES, and it's possible that that would qualify if they looked at that portion. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Montez or Ms. Welch, I can't remember your last name, Amy. So if you can address that, that would be great. Thank you.
Amy, I'm going to
Yes,
let you address that, please.
got it. Are you, is the question about the Texas skills exam?
Actually, can I interrupt here?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know if she was asking me to ask my question.
I think she was, but rather than us hop back and forth, because I believe that we could be here all day. What I would like to do is stick to the way we were doing it and go through our public comment, and then and then our board comment, and if we could have the questions addressed at that time. As we've seen, hopping back and forth is just I think taking this longer. So, moderator, do we have any further comments from the public on this issue
Thank you,
before we go
Madam.
back to the board?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do not. So shall I close the Q&A panel?
Please.
Okay, it's closed.
Now, Miss Welsh Gandy, if you would like to address that issue, and I believe the question had to do with the RPR, the CRR, the skill. So, do you understand the question?
I'm sorry to jump in, Madam Chair. This is Yvonne. The The question was specifically to the RMR and the CRR, and I just wanted to clarify, we did not ask OPES to evaluate those tests because in order to get to those tests, they have to pass the RPR and the same deficiency would be involved.
Thank you, Ms. Fenner.
That is correct. And so I cannot, we did not evaluate those exams.
Ms. O'Neill, you had your hand up. No? You're muted. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I thought I had taken down the hand, but I do not need to speak.
Okay. So so no other board members are wanting to speak on this issue? Actually, that is a question. Do any other board members want to speak on this issue any further? Ms. Hurt?
I don't want to speak on the issue, but I'm wondering if we need to make a motion to the staff as to how to move forward with all these items in light of all the work that's been done. And I think the interest I've heard from the task force alone about moving forward, but not granting reciprocity with Texas at this time. Moving forward with seeing whether they can get the occupational analysis and do more work to meet our standards, but not moving forward, not granting reciprocity with Texas today.
Okay. And it was my understanding that this was more of a reporting back what our status is on the issue. And we could address it again at our next, follow up with it at our next meeting. So will that require any type of motion or direction to staff further than what we've done?
Madam Chair, I would recommend that the board do make a motion just for closure on the issue. Obviously, we can continue to work with Texas and with National if it's the board's pleasure. If additional information becomes available, then we would have something to evaluate. But in the meantime, it wouldn't be sitting out there as an open item, so to speak.
Got it. I would like to offer just a couple comments, and this has to do specifically because now we have kind of meshed 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3. So this specifically has to do with 5.3. And since OPES clearly directs that we are to be testing for entry-level skill to ensure competency of licensees, the RMR and or the CRR would not be appropriate as they are advanced skills, not entry level. OPES further points out that adopting higher standards could be exclusionary and susceptible to legal challenges. And so from my take from that is it would not be appropriate to offer reciprocity with the RMR and or the CRR. And of course, that is coupled with the comments, the information about their occupational analysis. The occupational analysis regarding the RMR and the comments of Ms. Fenner earlier. So with that, I see Ms. O'Neill's hand raised. And then I think we could try to come to a conclusion to give some direction to staff.
Excuse me. So to clean this up, I would make a motion. The first motion I would make is that the board does not grant reciprocity with Texas at this time. That's motion number one.
Do we need a formal motion or do we? Okay, thank you. Okay. You ladies have more experience than me. I should just defer to you. Thank you.
You're doing fine.
Thank you. So I have a motion by Ms. O'Neill at this point not to pursue reciprocity No, I'm sorry.
No, yeah,
Not to
grant.
grant reciprocity with Texas at this time. Is there a second? Miss Hurt?
Can I make a friendly amendment?
Of course.
So I agree does not grant reciprocity with Texas at this time, but continue to work with Texas and the RPR once new information is discovered for analysis.
And I will accept that amendment.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
It makes sense. But we've got to amend the first part of the motion that we not grant reciprocity with Texas and or the RPR at this time, but then your second part.
Okay, so it sounds like you made another amendment by adding RPR.
Well, because the first part of her motion was just not grant reciprocity with Texas, and then on the second part you added the RPR to it. So either we're going to do, I would think we're going to either do them separately, Texas and the RPR, or we could combine them, which I'm fine with, but we need to combine them on both ends.
Actually, so I'll gosh, I wish I had my Robert's Rules of Books right now, but I will pull back my friendly amendment and edit it to keep it just around Texas. I think it's better if we separate them. Yes. So my friendly amendment is, we move that the board does not grant reciprocity with Texas at this time, but continue to work with Texas as new information around their occupational analysis becomes available.
And so, I accept that amendment.
Does that make sense, Ms. Bruning? I know she's our motion capture.
I got it. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Thank you for entertaining the friendly amendment.
So we have a motion by Ms. O'Neill, and it has been amended and seconded, and by Ms. Hurt.
I did not hear the second. I did hear the amendment.
Second.
Thank you.
Not to grant reciprocity. I'm gonna summarize this unless you want to repeat it in full. Do we need it repeated in full?
I think it would be cleaner if you let Paula just read it out.
Thank you.
I have do not grant reciprocity with Texas at this time, but continue to work with Texas as new information around the occupational analysis becomes available.
Thank you. This is a procedural question. Now, do we have to, since there's a motion on the floor, do we have to open it up to public comment and board comment again? Go through that process. Okay. So, Madam Moderator, if you could open public comment on this, on specifically the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to make a comment on this motion, you can type, I would like to make a comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists, or you may raise your hand. We'll give you a moment. This is the moderator. I see no request for public comment at this time. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
Any member of the board that would like to speak or comment on the motion? In the second. Okay. Ms. Bruning, would you call for the vote?
Thank you, Ms. Hurt.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. O'Neill.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Tugade.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Sunkis.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
So now do I have a motion on item number 5.2 regarding reciprocity with the RPR? Miss Hurt, your hand is up. Was that from
Up
prior?
last time, but I can still make a motion. I should want to take all the air out of the room here, but I move that we do not move forward with reciprocity with RPR at this time, but recommend or request that OPES follow up with NCRA to cure any deficiencies in the occupational analysis and bring this issue back when it's obtained more information.
I would second that motion.
So we've got a motion by Ms. Hurt, which was seconded by Ms. O'Neill and Ms. Bruning. If you could, do you have the verbiage on that motion?
Would you please
You
call for
could-
public comment?
Right. I was just having the motion stated, and then I was going to call for public comment.
My apologies, I jumped the gun on that one.
No worries.
I have abbreviated here, move to not move forward with reciprocity with RPR, but request OPS follow up with NCRA.
Perfect. Thank you. And if we could open up to public comment on that motion, just that motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've opened up the Q&A panel. If any member of the public would like to comment on this motion, please type. I would like to make a comment using the field in the lower right-hand corner of your screen and submit it to all panelists, or you may raise your hand. We'll give you a moment. This is the moderator. I see no request for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's closed.
So does any member of the board have any further discussion on the motion at hand?
No.
Ms. Bruning, would you call for the vote, please?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Hurt.
We didn't hear you.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. O'Neill.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Tugade.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Sunkis.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries.
Thank you. So I'm wondering if we want to move into, this is a question for the board. We're 10 minutes to noon. Should we move into agenda item 6 now, or should we take a 30-minute lunch recess and then come back to this at that point?
I'm sorry to interrupt, Madam Chair, but did you want to do the same motion with regard to the third part?
My apologies. We did not take action on 5.3. You're correct. Thanks. Is there any direction for staff on item number 5.3, reciprocity with the RMR/CRR? So does no recommendation mean no further action on the part of staff on this issue? If the board is silent on,
I would guess
you need direction.
I need to ask staff counsel if we need a motion, if there is no affirmative vote to grant that reciprocity, or does there need to be a similar type of motion?
No, I think if staff is clear on the direction going forward in that case, then I think you're fine without it.
Perfect. Thank you. I have my direction. Thank you.
Thank you. So do you think we can handle, should we handle agenda item number 6 at this time, or should we come back to that after a 30-minute lunch break?
I would say after.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. O'Neill. So we will take a 30-minute lunch break. We'll be back approximately 12:25. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.